Hello there, welcome to the Saroy channel, wherever you are in the world, and so much love to each and every one of you. How are you doing? I do hope you're doing remarkably well. I'm doing great, thank you very much. And isn't it fabulous? Another exciting story, and I love these stories because you don't know where they're going to take us. But before we start, go and get yourself something lovely to drink, something refreshing and lovely on the tongue, perhaps a lemonade or something. And let's get started with our story. But before we do, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, click the notification bell and the thumbs up. And let's get started with this fabulous story tonight. Dear Sarah, and all your lovely listeners, it wasn't easy for Melinda Stratton to leave 6-month-old baby Keegan in her mother's charge, but she did have to return to work, even though her heart definitely belonged at home with her baby. Sometimes in life you did what you had to do to put bread on the table and to provide a living for yourself and your family. Melinda was inspirationally independent and resourceful. She was also extremely ambitious. But alas, the once flourishing prestigious hair and nail salon that she ran very efficiently in town appeared to be falling apart at the seams while she had been away on maternity leave. It would seem in the grand scheme of things, no one ran a place as efficiently as she did. Kirsty Rawlings, who had been her long-time personal assistant, had taken over the salon on a temporary basis during her leave of absence, and it appeared that she had been screwing up the bookings and messing customers around. By all accounts, her incompetence, along with her absent-mindedness, had turned customers away. So during Melinda's maternity leave, it appeared that she was sadly losing business to their competitor down the street, which had been unheard of before. Ostensibly, Melinda knew that if Kirsty remained in charge of running the hair and nail salon, she wouldn't have a business left, as it was hanging on to dear life by a very fragile thin silvery thread. So extending her maternity leave for a while longer was not an option. She had decided to return to work sooner than she would have liked, which seemed like the only appropriate thing to do in the circumstances in order to salvage the salon from slipping into further decline. Some of the stylists at the salon had contacted Melinda urgently while she was at home with her mother Nancy. They had begged her to return to work as quickly as possible, claiming that Kirsty Rawlings was turning the business upside down on its head and would disappear for hours on end for no rhyme or reason. One of the girls in the salon suggested that Kirsty was actually seeing a young man during work hours, and this news went down with Melinda like a lead balloon, for it only served to highlight the fact that her salon, like the Titanic, would soon hit an iceberg, and then her business would likely sink, and she had invested so much in her business over the years, she couldn't allow this to happen. Her business needed immediate rescuing before it was too late. Melinda Stratton was a single mother. She'd got pregnant by a random stranger she met in a bar when she'd had far too much to drink. She had gone off with a stranger. His name had been Scott, but as to what his surname was, or where he was from, she had no clue. But she did detect he had a New York accent. She was not proud of what she'd done, and rather ashamed to admit that she barely remembered the stranger. She'd never been the type of woman to hook up with random strangers like this before, but this one night of passion had led to so much more than she'd ever bargained for. Melinda was mortified to discover she was pregnant by a stranger who was all but a vague blot on her memory, whom, if the truth be told, she would be unable to single out in a police lineup. As her memory of him was that obscure, she'd always wanted to become a mother, so no matter how inconvenient and inappropriate the timing was, she certainly wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth. So when she realized she was with child, she reasoned that this was the quintessential opportunity for her to embrace the entire process. After all, you couldn't put a price on family, as far as Melinda was concerned, for nothing, in her opinion, was more precious. So therefore she had decided to take the bull by the horns, for she was by nature a very decisive person who didn't hesitate for a second when it came to making long-term plans of any sort. She had sagaciously decided to rent out her apartment in town and move into her family home with her mother Nancy, in what was a rustic-looking house with oodles of charm, located in a rural area in the Pacific Northwest. The house itself rather resembled one of those prepossessing properties you might find in Tuscany, as there was Italianite influences to the architecture, which made you think of warm summer days. Olive oil drizzled over tomato and mozzarella salad, limoncello, frothy Italian coffee, and the best gelato you've ever tasted, from strawberry to tiramisu and pistachio. The house was originally built by an Italian builder. Highly esteemed he was in the 1970s. His name was Mario Montefiore, so the house embodied the authentic Italian look. Many of the Stratton visitors claimed that when they visited the house, they felt as if they had taken a short trip down memory lane back to Italy, as the Italian influences of the property, with its open courtyards, arches, extended balconies and porches, along with its sandstone steps and grand columns, was breathtaking to say the very least. Then there were terracotta pots filled with a tumble of hanging geraniums. The kitchen garden was filled with herbs of every kind, vegetables and tomatoes, and the rustic kitchen itself embodied the best aspects of Italian life, so the place was nothing short of something you would find in an upmarket, very glossy, country and home living magazine. For Melinda Stratton, moving into the family home to be with her mother meant that her mother could take charge of baby Keegan for her while she was away at work, managing the salon, and overseeing all the affairs her business naturally demanded. It had seemed like a great idea for both mother and daughter to remain together, as Melinda would never have trusted any random babysitter to look after little Keegan. She had heard horrendous stories over the years of childminders abusing their trust, being irresponsible with the children in their charge, so she really had big issues with trusting a perfect stranger with her baby, even if they had the best references in the world and came highly qualified. By all accounts, the Stratton family house was an idyllic place to raise a young child who could run around the property to his heart's content and be surrounded by the prepossessing splendours of the natural world. Nancy Stratton was a grieving widow who had recently lost her husband to a very sudden, inexplicable death that had left her feeling frazzled, rather dazed and almost shaken up from the tragedy of her husband's very sudden passing, for nobody had anticipated it. Nancy had woken up one morning to find her beloved husband lying beside her fast asleep, which was a surprise because he usually got up before she did. His eyes appeared to be tightly shut, his mouth hanging half open. He had been so ice-cold to the touch it had taken her aback. He looked so peaceful. She had tried to vigorously shake him as hard as she could to rouse him from his deep slumber, but he had failed to respond. It had been a horror to discover he was actually deceased. Even the coroner could find no plausible explanation for his untimely demise, which had been exceedingly disquieting. The coroner had reassured Nancy that this sometimes happened, and that her husband dying in his sleep had been an enviable kind of death, as no suffering was involved. Yet for Nancy, without her husband around to share in the bounty of the great riches that life had to offer, and to enjoy their golden years together in their magnificent home, made her feel as if she'd been cruelly cheated. It was as if her husband's premature, very sudden passing had caused her entire world to collapse and crumble in her hands, rather like a chocolate chip cookie. She felt so hopelessly lost without Kenneth, as he'd been the light of her life. The couple had been incredibly close, so much so that they could practically finish each other's sentences. Nancy felt as if she'd been thrown into the deep end of her life and was struggling to stay afloat, because without Kenneth around, one thing was for certain: things would never ever be the same again. It really distressed her that she had never had a chance to even say goodbye to her husband, for she had never once, not even for a moment, anticipated his early death. "Mum, wherever Dad is, I'm sure he's absolutely fine," Belinda had assured her grief-stricken mother. "He's at peace now. The coroner told you he didn't suffer. He just went to bed and never woke up. And you've got to admit it, it's the best way to go. I mean, if I was given a choice on how I wished to die, dying in my sleep very peacefully would be the way I wanted to go. At least Dad didn't have a ravaging cancer, and he wasn't killed in a tragic car wreck. He simply went to bed one night and never woke up in the morning." Maybe, love, what you say is absolutely true. Your father did indeed die peacefully in his sleep, and I'm grateful for that. And it is probably the best way to go. But it doesn't erase the fact that I was totally unprepared for my life to be unscrupulously torn apart like this, so cruelly. What am I going to do? Rattling around in this very large house all on my own. Me and your father, we had big dreams, you know. We looked forward to enjoying this place during our retirement years. But never for a second did I ever envisage being alone. To all intents and purposes, without Kenneth around, I'm going to feel as if my life has absolutely no purpose. I'm going to be awfully lonely hanging around this large house on my own. But if the truth be told, I haven't got the energy or even the will to sell this place up, to buy something small and poky in return that will likely make me feel utterly miserable. My whole life was in this house, you know. All my memories were made here. We built the most perfect house of our dreams for us to thoroughly enjoy, with that Italian architect Mario Montefiore, whatever his name is. He brought our dream to life for us, because when me and your father visited Tuscany on our honeymoon, we fell in love with the place. We absolutely did, and the architecture was absolutely breathtaking. We knew we couldn't live there, so we decided to bring a little bit of Tuscany back to the Pacific Northwest, which is exactly what we did. We were so privileged to live in a house like this, and I still feel very privileged, even without your father around. If I put this house on the market, part of me will believe I'm abandoning Kenneth. I'm so attached to this place, I really am. I've lived here for over 30 years. The idea of selling up makes my heart want to break. Furthermore, I'd like to leave the house to you in my will one day, after I'm gone, so that you can get to enjoy the place too. Sorry, I'm getting so dreadfully sentimental, aren't I? You have a right to be sentimental, Mum. This house is incredibly special. I mean, it looks as if it's cut out of an Italian magazine and plopped into the American countryside. We have so many beautiful memories living here as a family when Dad was alive. I'm sure he'd hate you to sell this place. He was attached to it as much as we both are. At this point, tears trickled down Nancy Stratton's cheeks, which she self-consciously brushed away. Don't mind me, love. I'm just feeling so dreadfully sorry for myself. I need to get my act together, don't I? Grit my teeth and get on with it. That's what your father would expect me to do. He had no sympathy for people who wallowed in their own self-pity, like I'm doing now. Belinda cradled her mother lovingly in her arms to comfort her. She hated her mother looking so desperately vulnerable in that moment. She almost felt as if their roles had changed, and now she was the one mothering her mother, a woman who was stoic and courageous by nature, who barely ever showed any emotion. But after her husband's Kenneth's untimely demise, the cracks of her mother's burgeoning insecurities were now beginning to show. "Mum, don't be ridiculous," Belinda had said reassuringly. "The last thing you want to do is sell this house. It's so full of your precious memories, our memories. And there's no way I will let you abandon this place, no way on God's earth. Do you understand? You have put so much of your love in this place, and selling it to someone who doesn't appreciate it the way you and I do would be an utter travesty." "I might be left with no choice, darling, but to sell," Nancy had said sorrowfully. "Melinda, this house is very big, I hope you realize, for one person. I suppose I could take on a boarder or two, but that's not really my cup of tea. I mean, there's issues with those kind of arrangements, are there not? I may get someone rather unfortunate moving in, with me that I don't particularly like. There might be a conflict in personality or something, and when I try to evict them, they may refuse to leave. You do hear horrifying stories like that, don't you? And being so recently widowed like I am, I need all that extra stress in my life like a hole in the head. If I want to stay here, it might be my only option to consider, though. I've got 5 very generous-sized rooms in this house, with bathrooms as well. So taking on 1 or 2 boarders is a distinct possibility I might have to consider. It could either go extremely well and be the best decision I've ever made, where I develop some really good friendships with people, but there's a possibility that it could be a complete and utter disaster, and I fear the latter very much. Mum, don't you get it? The good news is you don't have to go down that route. I think you're getting a boarder, especially with your being so vulnerable after Dad's death, would be absolutely insane. And like you say, you don't know who you're going to get. The way I see it, we both need each other. I'm going to have a baby very soon. So how about I move in with you permanently? The three of us can rattle around this big house together. While I'm at work, you can look after your grandchild. I'll need someone to take care of my baby for me. Hopefully it'll be a good distraction for you, so you don't have to dwell so much on Dad's death. And that in itself is the best way to get back on the horse after a fall, don't you think? I suspect being suitably distracted is healing in itself, as when you're focused on doing other things and you keep yourself busy, it stops you from dwelling on the past. It makes you focus in the present. I rather suspect we both feel a little like the pawns on a chessboard right now, that have been thrown around the place, and now we have to get back on that board and continue with the game of life. It's not easy, I know, Mum, but I think we can both help each other out, both emotionally and physically. Probably better than any counsellor could. Me personally, I don't even have any faith in counsellors. You would do that for your old mother? I don't know what to say, Melinda. Move in with me. You're a young woman, aren't you? With your whole life ahead of you. You have a spectacularly trendy apartment in town, which is the envy of so many young people your age. Why on earth would you want to saddle yourself with the likes of me? I really don't need your pity, dear, but it's a very thoughtful thing for you to consider. Melinda put her hand on her hip defiantly, rolling her eyes in exasperation. Mum, do we have to go there? For a start, you're not owed. And if you must know, I don't pity you at all. I'm incredibly impressed by the way you've been holding it together after Dad's premature death. I'm sure he is very proud of your courage. It hasn't been easy for the both of us losing him like this. Life isn't fair, Mum, but sometimes we have to muddy along, whatever the circumstances may be, to make the most out of a bad situation. Let's not kid, we are both in a pickle. I'm soon to be a single mother, with a baby boy on my hands to take care of, and a business to run. And you're alone in a big house that you simply don't want to sell, that has understandably become too big for you at the moment, especially after Dad's death. When Dad was alive, his soulful presence was so large, it filled the whole house, did it not? Oh, that it did, her mother agreed. I'm moving in with you, Mum, because I want to, and I will thoroughly enjoy your company because I always do. You're not just my mother, Mum. You're my very best friend in the whole world. It'll be like old times. It will be fun. Besides, I've got my own agenda here. I need your help with raising my baby boy. And I certainly don't want to hire a nanny. I need someone I can rely on and trust to watch over my baby while I'm at work. You know as well as I do, when you pay a random stranger to look after your kid, even if they're qualified in what they do, there are no guarantees that you're hiring someone you can actually trust, even if they have great references, because you have no clue how trustworthy they're going to be. And as far as having a boarder, well, you don't know what you're getting there either. In my case, I would probably go to work feeling sick to my stomach every day if somebody else was looking after my baby, wondering if I could trust that person who is overseeing my little boy. But with you at the helm of this domestic ship, I wouldn't have to worry about a single thing, would I? And that would be a huge, huge weight off my mind. You have no idea. It would be a win-win situation, don't you think? And besides, I'd pay you handsomely for overseeing your grandbaby. So what do you think about that? Nancy Stratton looked somewhat bemused, as if her daughter's words were sinking in very slowly, and she was trying to make sense of them. But you love your apartment in town, darling. You've made it up so beautifully, haven't you? Do you really want to move in with your old mother? I'm really not sure it's a good idea. I don't want to become a stumbling block in your life. And be warned, that's a very big possibility. Mum, quit this old stuff, will you? You're not old, and get that into your thick head. For your information, I do want to move in with you. It's a perfect arrangement, and it has nothing to do with pity, believe me. How many times do I have to tell you this? My apartment in town I will put up for rent. But it's nothing on this house, as glamorous as it may be. I don't think my pokey apartment is an ideal place to raise a child. For a start, the outdoor space at the apartment block is severely restricted. It's limited to a shared courtyard among the residents. I have seen little kids that live in the apartments running up the stairwells and playing around the passages. There's stairs everywhere, and recently one child fell down a flight of stairs and hit her head badly. She was concussed for a while. I don't want that happening to my child. Your grandson will be able to ride a bike around here to his heart's content, and he'll be safe. He can get his hands as dirty as he wants and explore nature. He could never get that at my apartment, where you're not even allowed to keep an animal. And what little boy doesn't want to have a pet of some kind? This is a much better place to raise a child, and I think living together will be fun. You get lonely, Mum. I get lonely, believe it or not. We enjoy each other's company. We can make this work. I really believe we can. What do you think? Oh, by the way, Mum, no isn't an option. I'm sorry, but I'm a tough negotiator. You're not kidding, Melinda. You are a tough negotiator. You never take no for an answer, do you? But what you're suggesting, although it makes perfect sense, I still worry about becoming a stumbling block for you. Sooner or later you're going to meet someone, or at least start dating. And I'm quite sure you don't want to be a single mother all your life. And you're going to want to bring a fabulous gentleman home to the house. But knowing you're shacked up with your mother, living in your old childhood home, that's going to be a turn-off for many men, I'm most sure. If this lovely gentleman thinks you live with your mother, he may see it as a potential red flag. Think you're a mummy's girl or something and run the hell away. You don't want your old mother destroying your love life for you, do you? It's the last thing I'd want for you. Mum, I'm not in a place in my life where I actually want to date. I'm a single mother with my own business to run. I have a heap of responsibilities. Dating is the last thing I want to think about. And if I did start to date, and the guy got scared off because I was living with my mother, well, what does that say about him? If he likes me enough, he'll understand the dynamics of my life and fit in accordingly. Maybe if I got really serious about him, he'd move in with us, and instead of there being 3 of us in this house, there would be 4. We could turn the upper floor into our living quarters. It could potentially work long term. It's funny, this is an Italian-looking house, and in Italy it's perfectly normal for 3 generations of a single family to live together under one roof. And in my opinion, it makes perfect sense. I have an Italian friend of mine who was raised in Italy with her parents, with her grandparents and even great-grandparents, all living under one roof, and it really worked for the family. Imagine that, Mum. She said her grandmother was the greatest inspiration in her life, and over there, the older generation is always held in great regard, for their wisdom is so invaluable. So don't underestimate your important role in your grandson's life, Mum. You're an invaluable asset, let me tell you. I suppose that is true enough, said Nancy. Grandmothers do have their role, and I think they do have some wisdom to bring to the table. Come to think of it, I don't want to be climbing steps as I get older. And that staircase is very steep. So yes, long term, the upper floor could be used for the 4 of you, if a man was brought into the equation, so to speak. If the truth be told, darling, I couldn't think of anything I'd love more than you moving in with me, and all of us living together under one roof. I would love to look after my grandchild while you're away at work. We could set up a nursery for the baby. It'll be just what I need to get my mind off your late father. And it'll be so good not having to rattle around this large house all on my own. And even better not to take any boarders in. If my grandchild proves to be anything like you were as a baby, well, I'll be kept on my toes for sure. Well, there you go, Mum. We've got it all sorted out, said Melinda enthusiastically. And that had been that. Melinda had rented out her apartment in town as she had promised she would, and after her baby Keegan was born, she had taken off 6 months maternity leave. But now she had to go back to work before the salon folded under Kirsty Rawlings' charge. It had been so stressful having Kirsty phoning up every other day, asking Melinda how to solve yet another crisis in the salon. It seemed Kirsty appeared permanently distracted, and Melinda suspected the rumours were true, and that Kirsty was preoccupied with a young, handsome stranger in her life, so the last thing on her mind was managing the salon. Melinda was extremely close to her mother Nancy, and much as she thoroughly enjoyed her independence, it really was a godsend having her mother around to help with little Keegan, who was growing up to be an absolutely adorable baby. But unfortunately, from the moment he had been born, he had suffered from severe colic and was failing to thrive in the way that he should have done, which was a great worry and concern for Melinda. The doctor was also concerned about her baby's low weight. So Keegan was proving to be rather sickly, and sometimes at night Melinda had been up at all hours attending to a screaming baby that refused to be comforted. Despite all the ailing problems Melinda was having with little Keegan on the health front, she thoroughly enjoyed her mother's company. Nancy Stratton had a fabulous sense of humour, but being back at home in this gorgeous country setting, surrounded by tall, lofty trees and beautiful country trails, was so much better than being cooped up in the apartment in town. It certainly meant for Melinda that she could get up early and go for that morning jog that she always wanted to go for, to help her get back into shape, for she was carrying 20 pounds of extra body weight that she felt she needed to lose, as having a baby had robbed her of her former trim waistline. But that was a very small price to pay when you had a baby like Keegan to watch over, even though he was rather sickly at the moment. The first day leaving the house to return to the salon had not been easy for Melinda. It had been an emotional tug-of-war, kissing little Keegan and making her way to the car, when all she wanted to do was to run straight back into the house and take care of her child. "Bye, Mum. I pumped some breast milk for you. It's in the refrigerator. Remember to bring it up to the right temperature and always test it. Good luck with looking after little Keegan. I'll see you later." Nancy Stratton stood in the doorway, cradling little Keegan in her arms. He was not a happy baby at present, due to his ailing health. Nancy was crazy about her grandson and adored his presence around the house. It had made the pain of losing Kenneth so much more bearable. "Don't worry about a thing, my darling. I've got it all sorted out. Everything's under control. Keegan is going to be fine. I think you're the one that's going to need the luck, as Kirsty Rawlings has been giving you the runaround for months, and I'm extremely worried about what things are going to be like for you when you get back on board your ship again." "Don't tell me about it, Mum. I'm dreading getting back to work, and I'm going to miss the both of you like crazy." When Nancy arrived at the salon in town, she was mortified to see how badly Kirsty Rawlings had been running the place, and she was having to address a sea of complaints left by customers who were all unsatisfied, who believed that they had not received the kind of exemplary service they received when Melinda was around. Melinda had made a plethora of phone calls to offer customers a 30% discount on their next salon visit. "Kirsty, what has been going on while I've been away? I trusted you to take care of things around here," she had said to her assistant, trying very hard to hide the disappointment she felt towards the woman. "I did my best, Melinda, but it wasn't easy. The customers were so demanding." "The customers are not demanding, Kirsty. All they want is a decent service. Is that too much to ask? But now I'm back, I'm going to take charge of things from here on, so you can relax in that regard. Frankly, I'm quite shocked by some of the reports I'm getting, Kirsty, about the salon not being up to standard in cleanliness, people feeling their treatments were rushed. People come to the salon, Kirsty, to feel pampered. They expect to leave feeling like $1 million. Instead, they leave bitterly disappointed by the service we offer. One lady said her hair looked like her kid had cut it because you hired a very inexperienced stylist to come to the salon when we were short of staff. And then there was another woman who claimed that her hair had been dyed the wrong colour. Some said you never offered them coffee or gave them a magazine to read while they were waiting for their hair to set. What's wrong with you, Kirsty? When people are paying big money for their hair or nails, they want to be pampered. What about that don't you understand? Kirsty shrugged her shoulders nonchalantly. You don't know how hard it is to manage this place while you were away, Melinda. All the customers gave me grief. They kept complaining about this and that. I think they were upset because you weren't around. Look, Kirsty, they wanted to be pampered. That's why they come here. You robbed them of that privilege. You need to attend to the details, offer them coffee, check that everything that they request has been fulfilled. If you don't, we're going to have a lot of unhappy customers on our hands. Kirsty gritted her teeth together. I'm not you, Melinda. I don't have your abilities, so don't give me a hard time about this. I did my best while you were away. Isn't that enough? I beg to differ, Kirsty. If you'd done your best, you would have diligently attended to our customers' needs. But you failed them, and in doing so you failed me. I understood you took extensive tea breaks for yourself while customers were waiting for you to attend to them in the reception area. How could you possibly do that? If we have to miss out on tea breaks and lunch, we do it. All of us agree on this. Because a customer always comes first. That's what we do in the salon. So what? You're going to sack me after everything I've done for you, is that it? Said Kirsty, looking as cantankerous as a rhino that had been poked with a stick. I'm entitled to a tea break, and if a customer has to wait, they have to wait. What's the big deal about that? It is a big deal. Don't you get it, Kirsty? You didn't behave like this when I was around. I've spoken to the other stylists in the salon, and they said half the time you weren't in the salon. You'd disappear and not be seen for ages. You also recruited someone who had no experience behind them whatsoever. And that person caused a great deal of problems in the salon. One of the stylists saw you in a gentleman's car getting very cosy with him. What do you have to say for yourself? Perhaps you were so distracted by this young gentleman, you weren't able to focus on your work. That's what I think happened. They're lying to you, Melinda, and you believe their lies. I didn't do that. There isn't a gentleman. There's no reason why the other stylists I employ would make up stories about this. They say they saw you. And if you carry on like this, well, it's very bad, Kirsty. You've got a bad attitude. I'll have to sack you if you behave like this. You need to get your act together, do you understand? And think of the customer before yourself. Even if it means working through lunch and tea. As a hairdresser, we have to make compromises. We all know that. It goes with the territory of our job. Just like if you run a hotel and have to be open on holidays. That's how things work around here. Irene, who's been here for a long time, was telling me that she had to leave a customer with hair dye on her hair over the extended recommended period of time. Why? Because you wanted her to manage the reception area. While you went out, you said you'd be 2 minutes, but you were ages. So when Irene removed the dye from her customer, it came out darker than intended, and her hair was very dry. The customer was naturally upset and refused to pay. And none of this was Irene's fault, it was your fault. That customer said she'd never come back again to our salon, so we've lost her for good. I've had numerous complaints from girls about you sauntering off and not managing the reception area when clients arrive. Do you realise how incredibly unprofessional that looks? You were supposed to greet the client, organise the appointment book, but often you were nowhere to be found. You also failed to get Angie to sweep up customers' hair, because you got her to wash your car instead and pick up your dry cleaning, as if she was your personal slave. She's not employed to do your jobs. She's hired to do work at the salon, like sweep the floors. It meant when new customers came for their appointment, they were already sitting in somebody else's clipped hair. That's not acceptable. I don't need to stand here listening to you tear me apart, Melinda. For 6 months I've looked after this place, and what thanks do I get? You were at home nursing your baby. You came back to work, and now you lay it on thick with me, when I can't help it if I need a break. It's not my fault if Angie didn't do her job properly. All right, I admit I asked her to do a few things for me. But it's no big deal. Oh, it's no big deal. Is that your new mantra? It is a big deal. When Angie doesn't do her job, you're the one that needs to tell her what needs to be done around the salon. You failed to supervise the staff adequately, and there as a result have been hundreds of complaints. I expected so much more from you, Kirsty. You promised me you could handle things on your own while I took maternity leave. I trusted in you, but you let me down big time. And I'm not going to lie, I'm bitterly disappointed about this. Some of the stylists were warning me that things around here were bad, but I never expected to return to such chaos. You have exceeded my worst fears. If that's what you think, then you can stuff your stupid job. I don't want it anyway. I hate working for you. And I'm not going to stand here and be belittled like this after everything I've done. Kirsty furiously thundered out of the salon, with her purse in hand. I want nothing more to do with this place or any of you, and I hope you run it into the ground, I really do. Everyone in the salon was suitably silent as Kirsty Rawlings marched out, the glass doors closing behind her. She left her anger filtering in the air like an odious bad smell. It was almost as if she expected Melinda to run after her and apologize, but if she hoped that would be the case, she was in for a rude awakening. All the stylists began to clap and cheer. Everyone was glad to see the back of Kirsty Rawlings, who had made them sweat with discomfort, for she had been managing a sinking ship. So everyone was relieved to have Melinda back on board, to steer the business away from choppy waters. Melinda was clandestinely extremely glad to see her go, for she would have found it exceedingly difficult giving Kirsty Rawlings her calling cards. She soon learnt from all the other stylists what a liability Kirsty had been, and how profoundly relieved they were to finally see the back of her. Melinda knew she had 101 things that needed to get done in order to bring the place back into shape, and it wasn't going to be easy by any manner of means. The salon was in complete disarray, and so many things needed sorting out, from the towels to the stock of shampoos and accessories they sold to their customers. The shelves had been cleaned out, and Kirsty had failed to order more replacements. The customers that had arrived at the salon this morning were so pleased to see Melinda in the driving seat again, greeting them with her warm, friendly smile, and making them feel pampered and special. Oh, goodness gracious, I'm so glad you're back, Melinda. This place has not been the same without you, she kept hearing over and over again from her clientele, all whom had rather unfortunate stories about their treatment in Kirsty's hands. So she realized to her horror that Kirsty had been more than a little inadequate in her handling of the salon. I'm here now, Melinda reassured her clientele. I'm sorry that Kirsty made you feel so unwelcome, but you'll never be subjected to such abysmal treatment again. I can promise you of that. For Melinda it was horrible to feel that while she'd been away, her salon had almost collapsed, as everyone knew that to have a good business, you needed reliable staff to hold the reins of things together while you were away, and Kirsty had done an appallingly lousy job in overseeing the management of the salon, so handing over the responsibility to her had been a catastrophic mistake, a mistake that Melinda could never afford to make again. Indeed, she had been rushed off her feet all morning, busy as anything, sorting out Kirsty's messes, that not only did she not have time for a coffee or a sandwich at lunchtime, but she hadn't even given little Keegan at home a passing thought, for she was so preoccupied getting things into shape again. So there we are. That is the end of part 1 of our story. Part 2 is tomorrow night. I look forward to you joining me then. Until next time, goodbye and good night.